How is iron made? Iron on Earth is made, or more properly extracted, from iron ore. The rock portion of iron ore contains oxygen, sands and clays in varying amounts depending on the type of ore. The job of an ironworks, as the earliest such factories were called, is to remove as much of the rock and other grit as possible while leaving iron behind, little different in principle from shelling a peanut or peeling an orange to get to the good part, except that in the case of iron ore, the iron is not merely surrounded by disposable material, it's mixed right in with it. Despite the daunting temperatures and overall physical challenges of ironworks, humans were already using them in pre-Christian times. Iron working first reached the British Isles by way of mainland Europe and Western Asia in the 5th century BC. Back then, iron was physically separated from the unwanted material to the fullest extent possible using only charcoal, clay and the ore itself, heated to temperatures that were modest compared to what would follow. At any rate, smelting was underway by 1500 BC, but nearly 30 centuries later, in the 1400s, the blast furnace was invented, changing the industry, such as it was, radically and forever. Today, iron is made by heating hematite or magnetite in a blast furnace along with a form of carbon called coke, as well as calcium carbonate, better known as limestone. This yields a compound that contains about 3% carbon and other adulterants, not ideal in quality, but good enough to make steel. Every year, about 1.3 billion metric tons, roughly 1.43 billion US tons, or nearly 3 trillion pounds, of crude steel are produced around the globe. Where did iron come from? Where the iron in your stainless steel dishwasher or your wood stove comes from, is perhaps a far less interesting question than how iron came to exist anywhere in the universe in the first place. Iron is considered a heavy element, and elements of this type can only be created in catastrophic, star death, events called supernovae. Whereas most stars kind of fizzle out as they burn through their fuel supply of hydrogen, some stars literally go out with a bang. These are statistically rare events, occurring only a few times every 100 years throughout the extent of the entire Milky Way galaxy, the massive slowly rotating pile of stars and other matter humans call home. But they are also vitally important. Without them, the forces necessary to cause sizable smaller elements to fuse together on impact and create even larger elements such as iron, copper, mercury, gold, iodine and lead wouldn't exist. And all the time, a certain fraction of these elements travel long distances through space and settle on Earth, sometimes in the form of meteorite strikes. How are elements formed in nature? Iron is believed to represent the approximate cut-off point in terms of elements that can be generated by ordinary star combustion processes, as if these processes themselves are truly ordinary in any way, and those that can only be created by supernovae. Most elements, oxygen, atomic number 8, through but probably not including iron, atomic number 26, are made once a star begins to exhaust its hydrogen supply. The reason a star burns is that it is constantly undergoing countless fusion reactions, with hydrogen, the lightest element, atomic number 1, colliding with other hydrogen atoms to form helium, atomic number 2. Eventually, in the innermost part of the star, helium atoms collide in groups to form carbon, atomic number 6. Iron in the human body. You probably recognize iron as being essential in the human diet based solely on advertising claims by food manufacturers. This cereal contains 100% of the US recommended daily allowance of iron. You may not know why this is, however. As it turns out, the typical human body contains about 4 grams of elemental iron. That may not sound like a great deal, but why would your body need any metal in it whatsoever? In fact, iron is an essential part of hemoglobin, the oxygen-binding protein found in red blood cells, RBC. RBCs transport oxygen from the lungs to the tissues, where it is used in cellular respiration. When people become deficient in iron thanks to insufficient dietary intake, iron is found in meats, particularly organ meats, as well as certain grains, or systemic disease states, their RBCs cannot do their job properly. In this condition, called anemia, people become short of breath after a modest amount of exertion, and often suffer from fatigue, headaches and general weakness. In severe cases, a blood transfusion may be required to correct the anemia, although typically correction is done using supplementation with iron-containing pills and liquids.